Western Illinois this week. Obviously, it'll be a road game. 1 o'clock kickoff. We'll take off out here on Friday. Fly out here at 4 o'clock. We're going to fly into Moline, Illinois, and then drive into Galesburg and spend the night there. A little bit of a different trip than we've done in the past. Previously, we used to go to Pittsburgh, wait around the airport, fly to Chicago, and then bus to about an hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes away, and then bus in the day of the game. So we're going to do probably a similar trip to most schools as far as staying in Galesburg. It's been a popular place to stay for other teams in our league, so trying to, obviously decrease that all-day travel on Fridays that we've had in the past. So looking forward to that. Western Illinois got a new turf there. It's normally been a grass surface. Last time we were there, it was pretty tore up. So it's good to see that unique locker room situation. So about 4 or 5 minutes away from the field, so you got a little bit of a walk there, and it's something you have to count for as far as your halftime and pregame and all those things. So it's a little bit of a different venue than some of the other ones we've been at. But offensively, I see a football team that wants to run the football. They've got 2 backs in Ray and Watson. Ray's a senior that obviously played last year, and then Watson's a 240-pounder, likes to bang it around, and got 2 good receivers. And Solomon, he's their guy that like to get the ball to. Quarterback, they've got a couple different guys in and out of the lineup there, so it'll be interesting to see what their approach is as far as that goes. It'll obviously be senior day, which is their last home game for all their seniors there, so I would expect them to be revved up and ready to go. Defensively, they've changed coordinators, went to more of a 4-man front. In the past, they based out of an odd front and used to have what they call a leather neck, so now they're more of a 4-man front, which is similar to, I guess, a portion of the teams in our league. So I've seen them make that move, so they got 3 linebackers, 4 down linemen in there, and have done a good job intercepting the football. I think they got 14 picks on the year, so they've done a good job there. And, when we came into the league 2 years ago, they were a playoff team, and you can see that they have some talented football players that they were able to recruit from coming off of that playoff run that they had, and had a really nice run actually that year. I think they went the furthest of anybody in our league. So we need to go out and have a good practice today, continue to work on doing the things we know that help us win football games. So that's where we're at.
What's the biggest positive, aside from getting a win, that you take from last week's game?
I think we showed that we were able to handle adversity. Probably a concern during that stretch there that things didn't go our way. I'm not sure that we were able to handle adversity and rebound, and stepped up and showed that we can handle adversity when the game's on the line. And then I think another big thing is when you need to play out of your defense, we got one, and that's something that's encouraging. I think our defensive line has really improved. The last 3 or 4 games, they've been like a different group, and that's a compliment to them. And our players responded. It's not doom and gloom around here like everyone likes to paint the picture. I can assure you there's no negative vibes coming out of here or our program. So there's a lot of positive things going on. There's an understanding that we have a lot of youth and talent in our program, and we're building it for the long run.
What's changed from just the defensive line the last few games? It seems like they've been more active, more pressures, more sacks.
They've been eating glass, been giving them raw meat, all the usual things you do to get guys to play with fire, But, I've always said it all starts up front, where you're able to control both sides of the line of scrimmage like we did last Saturday. I think you increase your chances for success.
Eric, you're trying to get back to the running game. I mean, you ran Jermaine a lot against South Dakota. Didn't throw the ball as much maybe downfield as you have in the past. So you trying to maybe get that running game more established?
I don't necessarily want to give anything away, but I think it's proof that when we run the ball well, we have success. At the same time, you know, I think there's a couple of games there where maybe we may have took too many shots that didn't get executed correctly. Or I would say that, you know, it was a situation where we got behind by a bunch of points real quick. And really the only way to get back into it was pitch around the ballpark, and I don't know that we're necessarily engineered or built for that right now at this point.
Because special teams is always magnified, there's been an issue in special teams the last 5 games. How have you addressed that?
Obviously, we talk about it quite a bit. We made some personnel changes pretty regularly, you know, and I think we've continued, you know, every Monday meeting after we hand out team awards and accolades and things that we did good and things that we did bad is, you know, the whole football team sits there and watches special teams. So, you know, if you're the guy that gave up a blocked punt, you got a lot of people to answer to in that room. You know, if you're the guy that didn't do this, or you're the guy that didn't make a block that could have sprung Stubbs for a touchdown, I think there's accountability there. And, you know, that's something that you have to continue to do, is as far as holding players accountable to each other, not just coaches, but really each other, because they're the ones playing.
Coach, how frustrating is it to have the kind of running game that you want to have and still only score 13 points?
You know, I think you can maybe say it's frustrating, but, you know, I felt like we were in control of that football game, you know, the whole time, you know. So points, you know, we're used to scoring a lot more points, obviously, but really, you know, there was a couple other drives there that we had a chance probably to get out. Could have been 13, 20 nothing, but had a couple little issues, I guess you would say, along the way. But you know, we got to win, and we'll take it.
If you finish 7-4, is that good enough to get into the playoffs, and do you think they'll take 14?
I mean, that's a question that I don't, you know, I don't know. I know that we need to take care of business this week, and that's our only focus. You know, I know media people like to talk about the past a lot, like to talk about the future. That's why you guys get paid the big bucks. But you know, I get concerned about, obviously, Tuesday's practice, and I know that if we do what we're capable of, we can be in control of our own destiny. I'll leave it at that.
Eric, you've said in the past that it's insulated. My opinion on Saturday is the crowd wasn't the crowd that we saw earlier in the season. How do you get people back to Stanbaugh Stadium?
Well, I think, you know, it's what you guys put out in the media in favor. You know, if you create a doom and gloom atmosphere, you know, and you know who you are, I mean, that's what you're going to get. And I've said from day one when I took this program, is it's going to take all of us. We're doing things the right way. Our GPA is higher than it's ever been. We have a tremendous amount of youth in our program. We're doing things by the book. We're not having NCAA rule violations. We're doing things the right way. It's not an overnight process. And we're still having an opportunity, if we take care of business, to be successful. So don't, you know, my message to the community is, don't get caught up in the doom and gloom. You know, we know who they are. Don't pay attention to them. Move on. You know, we're going to be a good football team. But stay with the blueprint.
But winning has something to do with that, though, right?
No question. And that's why I talk about being in the moment. You know, today's Tuesday. Have a good practice today.
Coach, is Stubbs back, and hopefully Radokovich back this week?
Stubbs is back. Radokovich probably will not be.
Maybe you talk about, I mean, it seemed like last week aimed to be a kind of a confidence builder for Kurt, and maybe like we go from there. Can you talk about him?
I would say that it was a good step forward for Kurt. You know, I think it's easy to always point fingers at the quarterback and pass blame, but at the end of the day, we always win and lose as a team, and you know, it's important for all of us when things aren't going right to continue to grab hands and unify, insulate yourself from the negative people, and do what you believe in. I mean, our blueprint's no different than what we did at Kansas State years ago. We're doing the same things, doing them the same way, and if you continue to do things right, good things are gonna eventually happen.
You talk about time of possession. Last week you had a 10-minute time of possession differential, and I know that's something you like. Obviously, you're not going to score a lot of points when you have the ball and you're running 5 yards a clip, but is that what you want?
That's huge. You know, I think your defense is rested. You know, if your defense is over there sitting on the bench, while the other teams stand out there in the cold, and this, you know, offenses are a rhythm-based deal, and you can hold them on the sideline. That's one of the best equalizers you can have. You know, you look at some of the prolific offenses around the country, the best way to ice them is, you know, keep them over there on the sideline. Look at Kansas State did to West Virginia, you know. You just keep them over there on the sideline, just run the ball 4 or 5 yards a clip, you know, and then when they get out there, your defense is fresh, and the pressure actually probably goes back on them because they feel like they're underachieving.
Coach, you talked in general about Western Illinois. What's the biggest challenge this version of their team presents?
I think, you know, obviously they have a good enough run game that I think all the run game is obviously going to complement with play action pass. And play action pass is always a concern because if you have any effectiveness in running the football, I think then you have to make the decision, you know, are we going to have to commit an extra guy to stop in the run? And then once you do that, I think you potentially set yourself up to be vulnerable to the ball being thrown over your head. And that's one of the best things we did last week we kept the ball in front of us. And our secondary did a great job. Coach Tracy had a great plan there as far as we're going to keep the ball in front of us. You know, we're going to leverage football.
Eric, can you talk about their red zone efficiency? I mean, they were, what, 14 of 14 before they got stopped?
Well, you talking about
Western
yeah. Prior to last week?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you know, the thing is they haven't had as many opportunities as most people. And I think also, you know, in the past they've shown to run the ball, they'll run it on 3rd and 12. You know, and they got confidence in their kicker. Now he's obviously 10 for 10, along with 46, and he's a guy that, you know, I think he was an All-American out of high school. So he's done very well, and he's kicked the ball well. They probably just haven't had as many opportunities maybe as some other people have, but they've been efficient, you know, and I think any time you have a focus on running the football, you know, most people get to the red zone, they like to try to throw it in sometimes. They'll make a commitment to try and run it in.
Is their secondary their strongest part? I mean, they have 14 picks too?
I think so, you know, and I think their linebackers are very active guys. They run around and they mix up their coverages well enough that obviously create some confusion that they're able to get some interceptions on the year.